Jim, what do you see when you watch this footage and this great point that Antonia makes, which is that that moment in many ways just encapsulates the dereliction of duty?
Right, Kristen. It's not what the public wants to see or any of us want to see. First thing I noticed is just how easily the gunman walks in. So we start with a failure of 2 locked doors. If just one of those doors had been locked and the first responding officers get there in 2-3 minutes, maybe they could have trapped them in the hallway. But it's an epic failure of police response to an active shooter training. So just to break it down quickly, the first 3 officers were trained in that. We were all trained in that post-Columbine. You know, you grab the first 1, 2, 3 officers, you make a triangle stack, you go right to the shooter, killer, you engage him, try to take him out. That's the training. The first 3 officers do that. They go right to the classroom door, but they don't enter. They should have entered and engaged him and killed him. And the first officer at the door has a handgun, and the 2 other officers in the hallway have police tactical rifles. They should be leading going in the door, and the officer with the handgun behind them maybe opening the door for them, which we now know, of course, the door was not locked. They lied about that in the beginning and said it was locked. It was not locked, so they should have went in. But even if they were, and they were shot, wounded slightly when they went to the door, then other officers who had already arrived and are in the video, another 3 at least, should have taken up the charge to go in and kill the gunman. So all these officers arriving, 30 minutes later, 40 minutes later, to me, Kristen, that's a moot point. This guy should have been dead early on from those first 3 or the second 3 officers that would engage him right away. They had rifles, and the door was unlocked. So it's an epic, an epic failure, and the only thing you can attribute it to is a lack of leadership and a lack of courage. They had some initial bravery, the first 3, when they went up there, and they got wounded. And even if they retreated, the other 3 should have taken up the fight, or they could have stayed and taken up the fight. But there's no way to put a nice spin on it.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. I mean, is this a failure of leadership and or communication, or both, do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, I think that the police review down there is relying a lot on communication. I think we should all throw that away. The active shooter training is the first 3 officers going in the stack. They were there. When they get repelled by the gunfire, there's 3 more right there. You don't need any communication for that. Who are you going to call? City Hall, the chief, the head of the state police? A brain in a jar somewhere. You have everybody you need right there to do the action you're trained to do. There's nobody else to call. Walkie-talkies and all that that doesn't matter. You need to go in right there. So that's a red herring communication here. The officers that needed to take care of the killer were right there on the scene with their rifles.
Jim, very quickly, what should the consequences be for those officers, and does there need to be an update at all to the protocol?
I do think there does need to be more training. There does need to be more training going into active gunfire. It's just, simulated, but active gunfire. Just like firefighters have to run into burning buildings. If you don't want to do that, you need to be in another profession. And also, we have to train harder on our patrol officers, who are the first ones in there, to go in quickly. And we've seen it across the country in many mass killings where officers are shot and wounded and killed. So we can also cite many cases where there's been extreme bravery. But we have a few, Parkland in Florida, and this one, where we see, a lack of bravery and courage, and it results in tragedy. Every officer has to have on the front of their mind, it's not a revelation that wounded people, in this case children, are going to bleed to death if you don't get in there quickly and stop the killing. That's not something you shouldn't not be, right on the tip of your mind. Every officer should know that. So there's no waiting for commands from anybody. You should know on an active killing. People are bleeding in there. They need help. I'm here. I have training. I have rifles.
Yep.
There's more of us than him. Let's go kill him. And that's what they needed to do.
Powerful last point. Jim Cavanaugh, thank you so much. And Antonia Hilton, thank you for your incredible reporting.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.